All right, we are fresh off St. Patty's Day, the first round and a half of the NCAA tournament, um, and the first week of NFL free agency. So, a lot happened this past week. So, this is going to be quite a fun show. And as we're recording, another thing might be happening. I'm watching the. So if you see me looking over here, it's because the Fairleigh Dickinson game is on. The FDU game is on with Purdue. Of course, that's a 1 or a 16 seed hoping to upset a 1 seed right now. But again, you guys will know the results as you're watching it. But coming up on the show, we're going to talk March Madness. We're going to talk a lot of NFL free agency, including a trade that is in the works right now, one that's been heavily speculated, and it appears is going to happen. So, but with that, Jason, it's your turn to start it off.
Yeah, so Jordan Poyer has, stated a lot that he wanted to try to play in the sun, be away from possibly Buffalo and stuff like that. Well, don't worry, Bills fans. That was all a ruse. He was just kidding. He didn't want to play in the sun. He just wanted to finish his career in Buffalo and restructure and resign. Well, yep, he resigns with the Buffalo Bills for another 2 years, probably to play out his whole entire rest of his career with Buffalo. I'm happy as a Bills fan to see him back in because it made a whole lot of sense to keep Jordan Poyer and possibly lose Tremaine Edmonds, even though you probably could have kept both of them with the kind of cap space you have now. But you know what? It's all right.
I mean, but look at the contract Edmonds got in Chicago. I mean, that's one that's really hard to turn down.
Right. Oh, I agree.
I mean,
Chicago just wanted them more than the Buffalo Bills did, which personally, I don't think that the Bills really need Edmonds. I mean, they have Milano, but other than that, if you look at the linebackers, that's all you really have is Milano. I mean, you don't have AJ Klein, you have Tyler Medikovic, you have other guys like Tyrell Dotson who came in and did pretty decent as a backup. But personally, if I'm the Bills, it wouldn't hurt to go after Bobby Wagner. I understand that he's getting up there in age. He's not like, the Legion of Boom Bobby Wagner like he was with Seattle. But he wasn't terrible for the Rams, but the Rams weren't that good either. So honestly, like Buffalo, you have the cap space now. You restructured a lot of deals. You restructured with Josh Allen. You restructured with Stephon Diggs. You restructured with Von Miller, and you also released Isaiah McKenzie. You have all this. I feel like you have all this extra cap space, and all you've been doing is re-signing your guys or grabbing like a few free agents here and there. The problem I'm having is like, I did this like willing to create this cap space and looking for a trade. If that's the case, all the power for them. If they're waiting for the draft to have a draft day trade, cool, fine. Or what you could do is if you're also all a bit big about re-signing your players, then why don't you bring back Devin Singletary? Because
I don't know. They must feel like they have something with James Cook there.
they probably do. Because look at it this way. You have some decent free agent running backs that are out there. You could go after one of them. I'm not saying don't go after Zeke.
No. I was about to say.
I say go after like maybe Leonard Fournette. He wasn't terrible in Tampa Bay. Somebody that can come in and give added boost to the Bills. Somebody that can catch out of the backfield, can run. Nothing against Hines and James Cook. I think that can be a pretty good duo in Buffalo. Hines isn't a terrible running back, and James Cook has proven that he can, when given the opportunities, he can work the best with it. But if you look at the end of the day, Buffalo doesn't rely heavily on the running game. They rely more on the passing game. And getting rid of McKenzie sucks. But if I'm Buffalo, there are still some free agent wide receivers out there that can help that team and that offense out. Why aren't you, like, this frustrates me as a Bills fan because I see a guy like Thielen still out there. I see a guy like Odell still out there. And you just released Isaiah McKenzie, which means that there's an opening for wide receiver. I get it, you just went out there and signed a wide receiver. But the problem I'm running into is I don't think he's going to be like in a starting rotation for running back. He's going to be mostly a punt / kick returner because he's a fast guy.
Mm-hmm.
You could go after Thielen. He's somebody that can still give you added production on the offense. He's played with Diggs before. Because unless Buffalo's seeing something that I'm not seeing, they better hope to God that Gabriel Davis can have himself a great season heading into this upcoming season, or you're gonna have to hit the panic button because Diggs can't just do it all by himself.
No, he can't, and we'll talk more about it, but the AFC East is going to get a lot tougher next year as well. Saying. And not just that, but the West is going to get a little bit tougher as well. But the AFC in general is just tooling up.
I will say that what they're doing defensively, keeping a lot of the pieces together, is a good thing. But the problem I'm running into is you have some holes in the linebacker position, and you're not going after a linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are holes, and you have cap space. What are they waiting for? Are they waiting for Are they waiting for the draft to draft some guys to fill those holes? Fine. If that's the case, all the power to it. But the problem I'm running into is you have cap space. There are still some big-name free agents out there, and you're not going after them. That's what's frustrating me as a Bills fan. But other than that, all the power. I'm happy about Jordan Poyer being back. It made too much sense. You have Hyde and Poyer back, probably fully healthy heading to the next season. That's also a boost. So I'm happy that he wants to finish his career in Buffalo. I think there's a lot of players that do. So I'm all happy for it. A player that might possibly not play at all heading to next season. Of course, we're still in the season of NBA for the 2022-2023 season. This is talking about the 2023-2024 season. Lonzo Ball has had 2 previous surgeries on his left knee. Well, it has been stated that he is going to need a 3rd surgery on that left knee and miss most, if not all, of next season. And there's a possibility that he might not play again. And if he does, that'll be a miracle at this point, because I don't even know how bad of an injury that Lonzo Ball had for the Chicago Bulls, but it does not seem very promising for them. And personally, if I'm them, I would hit the panic button. You haven't really been a very relevant team. You got some decent players. I mean, DeMar DeRozan isn't terrible. Nikola Vucevic isn't terrible. You have some great players. But the problem is you've gotten these players, and you've been dealing with injuries. I mean, you even got Zach LaVine. For instance, Zach LaVine is there. They have a lot of talent on that team, and it's not reflecting in the win-loss record at all. So personally, I would hit the panic button. Chicago needs to do something with this team because, if you look at a team like DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Lonzo Ball, Vucevic, you should at least be a playoff team almost every single year. And I know I've talked about it multiple different times when they've gotten these players like, Chicago might actually be relevant. They could get into the playoffs. They got close to the playoffs and then missed it. it doesn't look very promising for the Chicago Bulls heading into next season and probably future seasons.
Yeah, I mean, it's time for the Bulls to do something. Not just looking at the current picture, but just the last 20 years, it's time to do something different.
Right.
It's clear, that you have a drought since the 90s. It's time to learn a new way of doing things, find a new guy.
I mean, the closest that they've probably gotten was when they had Derrick Rose and Jimmy Butler on that team. But even then, they still had guys like LeBron, D Wade, Chris Bosh in their way. So Chicago has had some good teams, and they've been in the playoffs as recently. But the problem is that you can't rely on just what happened in the past. You have to look into the future. Okay, yeah, you got 6 championships and you won, with Michael Jordan. But the problem is you don't have Michael Jordan anymore. Michael Jordan is an owner and a very crappy owner for the Charlotte Hornets.
He might be on his way out. It's not in our notes today, but he's selling the team.
Sell the Hornets, which honestly, it's not a bad idea because he has done nothing for that team other than 2 appearances as the owner. He's had the worst NBA record of 7-59. I remember when the Charlotte Bobcats at the time were that terrible.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that when that happened, that's when they drafted Kemba Walker from UConn. So
yeah, see, he's doing much better as a NASCAR team owner than he is as a NBA team owner. Of course, he has Kurt Busch in his arsenal. He's won races. Bubba Wallace won 2 races with the team. So they're winning in NASCAR. But in terms of the NBA, how come? Oh, wait, that's right, because he has Denny Hamlin helping him with his NASCAR team. It's clear he has not surrounded himself with the right people. Much like the Bulls have not surrounded themselves with the right people since Michael Jordan left.
No, they definitely have not.
Essentially, they have something in common.
Right. The thing about Lonzo is he's a really good player, and he's really turned his career around and, becoming that kind of impact player. But the problem is that if you can't stay healthy and, clearly you got something going on with that knee, it's probably time to hang up the shoes. And maybe if Chicago, can have one ball brother, maybe they can go after the other ball player in LaMelo. LaMelo is a really good player. He's pissing his career away and being in Charlotte. So if Chicago should do anything, why don't they go after LaMelo Ball, bring him into Chicago, and then
yeah,
because he's not a bad player. He's almost better than Lonzo is.
Frankly, I think he's better than Lonzo, but still.
I mean, he can play offense and defense, where Lonzo is better with more offense and defense, but it is what it is. Now, an interesting move. I knew Jimmy Garoppolo was not going to stay with the 49ers at all, but if you told me that he was going to go to the Las Vegas Raiders, I probably would have looked at you and said, you're an idiot. There's no way he's going to go play back with Josh McDaniels and go back in that system. Well, close enough. I mean, technically in a way he's back with a New England type offense. Well, he's now 67 or 34 million guaranteed richer, as he's now signs with the Las Vegas Raiders for 3 years worth $67.5 million with $34 million guaranteed. The real questions are: is this an upgrade from what they had? I would say yes.
And breaking news, by the way, Jimmy G broke his hand signing the contract. He's going to be out 6 to 8 months.
I would say yeah, it would be an upgrade from what they had. But the problem is I guess I'll ask before I go into the other one. Can he stay healthy enough for the Raiders?
Well, I look at your questions, and the second one should be a no-brainer, yes, because he played for Josh McDaniels before, and
I think that's
actually
the main
did
reason
pretty
why the
well.
Raiders. Right, and I'm pretty sure that's the
So,
main reason why the Raiders and Josh McDaniels went after Garoppolo in the first place, is
yeah.
because they wanted somebody that was going to fit that system, fit it
Mm,
well, be a week one starter right
yeah.
away. I mean,
But
they can come in and
based
have. Well, go ahead.
Well, sorry, I was
Sorry.
going to say, but based on his contract, it's clear they're not going to settle on him. That's that's the thing. It's clear that they're not going to settle on him as the starting quarterback. He's not making starting quarterback money. So essentially, what I'm reading into, and maybe I'm reading between the lines, but I see that Jimmy G is probably going to have some competition. Maybe not this year, but next year, much like he had with Trey Lance in San Fran.
Yeah, but the problem is who would be competing with Jimmy Garoppolo? You got rid of Jarrett Stidham.
There's
He's not.
quarterbacks in the draft.
I mean, true. And I would assume that's what the Raiders are probably going to do. They're probably going to draft a quarterback. I don't know what their position is in the draft. I would assume it's probably kind of higher, not
Mm-hmm.
lower.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But
I guess you could draft a quarterback. I mean, I don't know exactly who else
mm-hmm.
they have other than Garoppolo. I don't think they have really anybody other than him. I mean, traded away Derek Carr to the Saints. Uh, and Stidham went to the Denver Broncos. Now you have Garoppolo on that team. And I'm pretty sure he's like the only real quarterback that you have, other than maybe like a rookie or a second year player behind him.
Hmm.
So, and personally, I just don't know if I could see him being fully healthy enough, stay healthy enough for the Raiders. This might be a big risk more than a reward for the Las Vegas Raiders, because if he doesn't stay healthy, then stuck with a guy for 3 years. Oh, maybe 2 years, because you can always probably release him in his last year too if he somehow doesn't stay healthy or plan out, being the kind of guy that they plan it out to be. But if he does stay healthy and plays very well, then I think it was definitely worth the risk. But if he doesn't stay healthy and somehow isn't that kind of same guy that he was in San Fran, which it's tough to tell because you had Devontae Adams, but you had no Darren Waller. So you have Devontae Adams, you have Hunter Renfrow. So I mean, and I guess and then you also have Josh Jacobs because they franchise tagged him. So I mean, isn't I guess exactly a terrible offense, but they better hope that Jimmy Garoppolo can be that kind of star quarterback that they're looking for, or they're going to be running into the same situation that they had with Derek Carr.
I mean, it's a slight upgrade, but you're entering a division where you've got two teams that are going to be the top two regardless of who you pick up in the Chargers and the Chiefs. And you have the Broncos, who, I'm sorry, but I'm not buying that Sean Payton's going to fix that team. So you're really competing for third place at this point. And then trading Darren Waller, big mistake there. So I don't know. I don't feel like I feel like the question, if Jimmy G can stay healthy, I just don't know if he can do enough to help this team compared to Derek Carr. This team has just been poorly managed for so many years, and I just don't see much changing. But again, I'll save my full thoughts for when the season begins and once we kind of see what happens in free agency and the draft.
I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like that this free agency year has been very eventful.
It's been predictable, not necessarily eventful.
Yeah, it kind of has been predictable, honestly. But other than that, I'm going to take it over to Brian so he can talk about his takeaways.
Man. All right, do we have a few minutes? Because I gotta watch this real quick because I'm actually gonna start with March Madness instead because we are on upset watch now. You guys are gonna get my live reaction to this FDU game at this rate. Oh my goodness, a block! Sorry. So while I'm waiting for the results of that game, I will tell you about two other upsets that happened. Furman beat University of Virginia. Princeton beat Arizona. I think it's like the third or fourth year in a row. A 15 seed has advanced to the second round. But we got to talk about this. Kennesaw State. What the hell happened to you guys? Up 20 on Xavier, a team that's hardly ever a high seed. Excuse me, in the tournament. You were up 20 on them, and you couldn't finish the deal. I mean, oh my gosh. I just got no words for that. That's ridiculous. That's bad. Man, now all the timeouts are getting burned. But as far as Virginia, man, they have quite a history of losing to high seeds.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. Like, usually, if I remember correctly, of Virginia, usually a lot of people, when they're doing their brackets, have them going so low. Oh, what are you doing?
It's Bella's dog, by the way, not him watching the game or anything.
Right.
So.
But honestly, other than that, Virginia, I don't know what the heck they're doing as a program. You end up being a number one seed, and you lose these lower seeds. You do so well during the regular season, you get to the tournament, and then you just falter. I don't understand what Virginia is doing. It's same thing with Arizona. I mean, usually Arizona and Virginia are two of the top tier like D1 teams. Yeah. And then they lose to these lower seeds. Like, it just makes me think of what the hell they're doing heading into the tournament. Yeah. And I get it, the upsets are going to happen regardless of,
It's just like they think that, they get ahead of themselves.
I feel like these teams just think that, just because of their higher seeds, they're just going to get these wins easily, and that's not always the case.
Yeah. But Virginia wasn't very well prepared. And I gotta say, though, the Ivy League, every year it seems like whoever comes out of the Ivy League always makes a splash in the tournament. On the other note, Princeton beating Arizona. A lot of people had Arizona going to the finals. So that's insane to begin with because of the 2 and 15 matchups that I saw. I'm not going to lie to you, I did not expect that one to be the upset. And on another note, though, going back to Virginia, now keep in mind, while we're recording, this is live at our time. While you guys are watching, this already happened. FDU might have just did it, and I think they did. Yep, FDU is moving on, so Virginia is not the only number one seed to lose to a 16 anymore.
Oh, that's crazy.
Add Purdue to the list. It's 1.5. Make that 0.6. And this game is it's a 5-point game now.
It's crazy to think about that. Like this ruins a lot of people's brackets too. I feel like because if you think about it, a lot of people usually choose a lot of the number like the top seeds to move on from the first round. So if you think about it, all the upsets that have already happened really ruin a lot of people's brackets already, and it's just the first round. So, like that to me just like screams, holy crap, that's like crazy to think about, like that so many upsets have already happened in the first round, and there's also like multiple different rounds because there's a round of 32, there's Sweet 16, the Elite Eight, Final Four, and then the last two. It was like it's just crazy to think about that there's still so many rounds left, and there's already been that many upsets already just in the first round.
Exactly. 1.2 left actually, but it's over. It's a 5-point game at this point, and it's over. All right, Purdue is out. Sorry, I had to text my coworker. But on that note, we have our upsets right now. We got probably a few more that we're missing, but again, we're recording on Friday. So my apologies for being so quiet. I had to see the end of this. This was insane finish in Columbus. But with that, let's go back on track. Let's go to the NFL news. And of course, I got a lot of running back news, but I start with Austin Ekeler. Austin Ekeler and the Chargers have been trying to reach a long-term deal for the running back. The two sides have not come to an agreement, and it would appear that Austin Ekeler's time as a Charger is going to come to an end. He has requested a trade, and the team has allowed him to go seek a trade with another team.
Screams what was that? This just screams was it Melvin Gordon all over again? Because I don't know what it is about Chargers and good running backs and not wanting to stay in with the Chargers, because it seems Melvin Gordon wanted out, and then he got out, and now he's with Kansas City Chiefs, won a Super Bowl without doing jack shit, by the way. And now Austin Ekeler wants out, apparently, if he doesn't get the long-term deal. This kind of screams the same thing that happened with Melvin Gordon. And I get it. It's a passing league, so you don't want to have to really keep these running backs for with big contracts and stuff like that, because we've seen what happens with running backs getting big deals. And I'm looking at you, Zeke.
Yeah.
Talk about running backs, but still, if somehow Austin Ekeler does get traded, I don't know exactly what team might pull the trigger and go after him. Personally,
and good riddance to him. Now that I have a chance, good riddance. Okay, let's look at quite a few of the last Chargers running backs that have left the team, whether by trade or by release. LT didn't do anything beyond that. Was benched for Sean Green. It's a shame because he's a Hall of Famer, and that happened. Who else is there? Ryan Matthews. Ryan Matthews left the team, didn't do anything, essentially retired early. The only one, Darren Sproles, yeah, he did something. He won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, and actually was a big part of that. Then there's, Melvin Gordon. Now, yeah, he won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs, but he was ring chasing like the little bitch he is. But Melvin Gordon left, became a fumble machine on the Broncos. You know what? He can leave because, frankly, I'm going to state it for the entire audience here. He was nothing before he got to the Chargers. He was on nobody's radar before he went there, and he'll be on nothing again once he leaves. So, and I'm not afraid to make that bold statement. That's not me saying it as a salty Chargers fan. That's me saying it as that's reality of what happens when you leave LA or San Diego. But with that, the Chargers are going to need a running back. And I hope this guy is not that guy. Ezekiel Elliott has been released by the Dallas Cowboys. As you can now guess, they're going forward with Tony Pollard as their running back one. Can't say I didn't see this one coming. He got paid, really didn't do anything.
See, the problem I have with this is that Tony Pollard, yes, is good, but he just got franchise tagged, so he's on the 1-year prove it deal. If he does really well this season, the problem with Tony Pollard is he's going to be seeking a long-term contract. You better hope to God that Tony Pollard doesn't end up becoming like a Zeke with, getting a long-term deal, because Zeke ended up, playing fantastic, got the long-term deal, and then regressed afterwards. So hopefully Dallas gets it right with Tony Pollard, does well, gets the contract, and doesn't end up regressing. More like,
I wouldn't even say it was Zeke regressed. It was Zeke straight up ran out of motivation. He's like, I'm getting paid. I don't care.
Well, he's going to have to care sooner than later because he's literally on the shelf and hasn't gotten picked up yet.
Zeke got fed a pink slip. That's what he's getting fed now.
Exactly. And the problem is that, Ezekiel Elliott can probably still, go on a team and probably add production. But the problem is that if you look at how many rushing yards he's had per game since his rookie year, it's been lower.
Yeah.
I think he only averaged just under 50 yards per.
It wasn't even a slight regression. It was a big-time regression.
The only time that he actually had his best year was his rookie season, and that's sad. This year, he got outplayed, outmaneuvered, and outgunned by a man that hasn't even been there with a team that long. Tony Pollard can catch out of the backfield. He can run. He's definitely somebody that's going to help Dallas in the long run. But the problem is that Dallas might still need a running back to pair up with Tony Pollard.
There's options. They'll find somebody, I'm sure. And then they'll now overpay for Tony Pollard to begin with. Since that's what they did to Zeke.
Somehow it won't shock me if he gets a longer deal, even though he just got franchise tagged.
Yeah, I mean,
or just prove it to us that that you deserve a long-term deal, or we're gonna find your replacement next year.
And that's of course assuming that he doesn't hold out. Because a lot of running backs tend to hold out when they get the franchise tag.
I don't see Pollard doing that. I don't think Pollard's that kind of guy.
I'd hope not, but at least not for my fantasy teams. I'd hope not.
Anybody that I can see holding out because he didn't get the long-term deal is probably Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, it might be a sign and trade at this point. It looks like they're just trying to move on from him, but things tend to work themselves out.
I think Tyler Huntley is going to be the week 1 starter for the Ravens going forward. But other than Zeke, I don't see him getting chosen unless somehow he randomly goes to Tampa Bay.
I feel like it would be the Chargers, if anything, because he has that connection with Kellen Moore for years.
Yeah, but honestly, he's regressed under Kellen more than he has, done anything. So I don't know if it's a good move for the Chargers if they were to go after?
I don't want him to come to the Chargers. I mean, that's what I'm going to tell you right now. I don't want him to go there, but something just in my gut tells me it's going to happen.
What if he goes to the Chiefs? I mean, what if Ezekiel Elliott goes to the Chiefs and somehow resurrects his career?
It'll be another Melvin Gordon situation. He'll just ride along for a ring, which he's not going to get because I don't feel the Chiefs are that team next year. But I could be proven wrong.
You have Pacheco, and I don't see Ezekiel probably out running over Pacheco. I would assume that Isaiah Pacheco is going to be a starter, and then you have Eric McKinnon. So I don't see them going after Ezekiel Elliott. There probably will be a team that's going to be going after him, and I just hope that God it's not the Buffalo Bills.
On that note, yeah, I would agree. I would also agree it would be very dumb of the Chargers to go after him. But with that, I think it's time to take our break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about a big deal that's going to be transpiring in the NFL pretty soon. So stay tuned. We'll be back with Sunday Morning Tinkle in just a moment. All right, here we go. Aaron Rodgers has emerged from his idiot retreat. Oh, sorry. Yeah. You meant darkness? Sorry, I called it idiot on medication retreat.
His 5 days in darkness.
his 5 days of being high and sitting in a cave looking at nothing. That's basically what it is. Yeah, so he joined Pat McAfee to announce his future, and despite saying he wanted to retire, he will be staying in the NFL, but it will not be with the Green Bay Packers. It appears that the Packers and the Jets are working out a deal now to send the longtime starting quarterback to the New York Jets. The Jets have already kind of done a lot to accommodate Aaron Rodgers. They have added Alan Lazard on a 3-year deal. Randall Cobb is rumored to be joining them over there as well. And keep in mind, the reason this works out, the Jets also have Nathaniel Hackett as their offensive coordinator right now. So I guess the first question I have is your thoughts on what should the Jets have to give up for Aaron Rodgers here?
Now the question, the real thing about this is that, yeah, you know, he also gave the Jets a list of players to target to, but the only guy that they went after and acquired of all the players he listed was Alan Lazard. You know, it's cool and everything. He has some young talent on that team. You know, heading into next season. I mean, you have Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. He's gonna have Alan Lazard. He's gonna have other decent weapons. I think he's got Barrios, other decent receivers. But the thing is that you look at that team and it doesn't look any better than what he had in Green Bay. So I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to have that same success like he did with Nathaniel Hackett in Green Bay compared to in New York. You know, it's an upgrade at quarterback, but is it going to be truly an upgrade from what he was dealing with last year into heading into this season? I don't know. I mean, unless they can go after and get some more talent to surround Aaron Rodgers. I mean, if they can get Randall Cobb, Odell Beckham Jr., and I think Mercedes Lewis was also on that list of players to target. But why would he want to play with half of his former receivers in Green Bay when he already, had a problem with what they were doing last year.
It's just more, it didn't work the first time, but man, if we try it the second or third time, it might just work. No, it's not going to work, Aaron. Randall Cobb is just not the receiver he used to be. And Alan Lazard's a great young receiver, but, again, it just didn't work. I mean, the Jets, though, I do like this move for the Jets. I think it's big for them to get a quarterback like Rodgers, even if he is 38 years old. They got a great young head coach in Robert Saleh right now. Nathaniel Hackett, was great with Aaron Rodgers before. He'll be great again, I'm sure. I just can't wait to see what happens here. As far as what the Jets should give up, three first-round picks for the guy who's won MVP.
Personally, I would say you would have to give up this year's first-round draft pick that you had already, and maybe future years afterwards. Maybe a player or so. Who knows?
Three first-rounders. That's the minimum I think I would take for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, 3 first-rounders, maybe like a second or third rounder in like say 2024 or 25 or 26.
And maybe Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
So I think, Zach Wilson's on a rookie deal. Jordan Love's on a rookie deal. It's not like it's going to kill the cap if you get him.
Personally, I would say Zach Wilson to Green Bay, and then you're going to have Zach Wilson and Jordan Love compete for the starting job.
I don't think it's much of a competition. Jordan Love has it, to my knowledge, and should have it, because he didn't play half bad in the games that he did fill in.
Yeah, Jordan Love isn't a terrible guy. I think he's somebody that is poised and ready to take on the number 1 spot in Green Bay. But doesn't it not seem kind of funny that Aaron Rodgers is kind of taking the same footsteps as Brett Favre did?
So he's going to be a Viking in a few years.
Yeah. Left Green Bay to go to New York. Same thing with Brett Favre. Left Green Bay, went to New York. Does that mean that next year he's going to play for the Minnesota, is going to retire and then come back and play for the Vikings, retire and then come back and play for the Vikings?
Probably. So I guess the next question is, how do these teams fare? Packers, do they sink or swim with Love? And then same with the Jets.
I say they sink with Love only because they lost so many pieces. They lost quite a decent amount of pieces already. I mean, you lost Robert Tonyan, you lost Alan Lazard.
Yeah.
All you have is
Watson.
Is Watson and other guy there that was a rookie this year. You really don't have a whole lot of talent. You lost Randall Cobb. You lost Lazard. You lost Tonyan. Got Aaron Jones, so that's already a big plus right there. Signed him. So I think you sink. I think Packers are going to be a lot worse this year than they were last year. As far as the Jets with Rodgers, I say you swim with Rodgers. I mean, you can only go up from here.
Yeah. I mean, the only issue I have is Rodgers goes from what wasn't a loaded NFC to having to beat not just the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cincinnati Bengals, but he's got a battle in his own division too, because you've got Miami that's been on the up and up the last couple of years. You have the Bills that are the team to beat until somebody beats them in that division.
Right.
And then New England.
I don't think New England's going to be that.
New England's that team that'll always just find a way to be middle of the road.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they have Gasecki and they have Juju, but other than that, I just don't see them being that kind of team.
I will say it's an upgrade, and I think this is essentially them in a Belichick way saying, I've given you an offensive coordinator, I've given you a tight end, and I've given you a wide receiver. Now I need you to win me some games and stop questioning what the calls are and, everything. So basically, shut up and play is what Bill Belichick is saying with those moves.
I will say the Patriots shall be very entertaining next year. You have the gritty, the Gasecki gritty, and then you have TikTok boy.
It's interesting. That's the best way to put it. It's going to be interesting. But the Jets,
as far as Jets and Green Bay Packers, I mean, yeah, if they somehow do get Cobb, that'd be cool. Because, I mean, at least you got two familiar receivers for Rodgers in the Jets. But the problem is that what does that mean for Garrett Wilson?
Yeah. Well, Garrett Wilson wanted to get released mid-season, I believe, right? Something, or he wanted to trade. You're going to be getting Breece Hall back, too, in that backfield. So that's going to be huge. But besides the Jets, I do want to shift the attention to the Packers because, let's face it, the landscape of that division has changed for good now because the Lions are there. Like, the Lions are there right now, and they're scary.
I mean, they just lost Jamal Williams, who literally
led
they
got Montgomery now.
David Montgomery. I don't think he was good with Chicago, to be honest with you.
But look at what Chicago's had the last few years. I can give you a hint of what they've had.
Personally, I feel like Chicago is doing more to try to improve than Detroit is. Yeah, they got David Montgomery.
Detroit's just trying to go for that defense again. That's all they care about over there, and they need to They need to focus on the offense too here.
Right.
I mean,
I agree.
But I gotta say, I don't feel like these moves are gonna put the Packers above third place.
No, personally, I think it's still the Vikings division to lose heading into next year, unfortunately. I mean, when you have like Justin Jefferson, you're going to win games. But to be honest with you, how much does losing Adam Thielen really, truly help Justin Jefferson? Because now he's going to be the top guy. Everybody's going to try to go after him. I don't think he's going to have it as easy as a lot of people think he's going to. So, personally, the Green Bay, like that whole entire division is going to be interesting. I don't see Green Bay being a playoff team heading into next year. I think they see them being dead last, if anything, if not third. Personally, I think if I see an order, I would probably think Minnesota, maybe Detroit, Chicago, and Minnesota, or in Green Bay. I mean. Green Bay I see dead last. I think Chicago might just edge Green Bay this year.
Yeah. But I will say that you said that it's the Vikings division to lose, but what makes you think though they won't draft a receiver as well to complement Justin Jefferson? I mean, that's the other thing you got to factor in. They also got Hawkinson, who will be a year into this offense now.
That is true, too.
So I feel like it's still, like you said, the Vikings division to lose.
Right.
But what I will say is that Detroit, and without giving too much away before the season begins, I think Detroit's going to give them a run for their money. I really think they are. I feel like the way they beat the Packers on Sunday night proves that this team is not the same Detroit Lions team that we saw with Jim Caldwell, with Matt Patricia, and really for the last 30, 40 years.
I'm just going to say this now. This would have to be a make it or break it year for Dan Campbell. Because if they somehow don't make playoffs this year, I would just have to say it has to be goodbye to Dan Campbell.
I don't think so. I feel like, because if you argue that, you got to argue that Andy Reid should have been fired after a couple of years of failures with the Chiefs. The constant playoff choking that they endured for many years before Mahomes, got spoon-fed that Super Bowls.
He still made the playoffs. I'm talking about more so with the Detroit. Like, of all the times that he's been with that team and has, changed the culture and changed the team around, last year they should have been a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
It's no excuse to miss playoffs after the turnaround they had.
Frankly, they started out rough. And they started out, a few of those calls, I will admit, were Dan Campbell's fault. He made some very boneheaded calls that costed him games. And then the constant, Detroiting in terms of losing. But I feel like that's behind. Like I said, I feel like the second half of the season we saw a better Detroit Lions team. And I could tell you another thing. I think if you're right and they do cut Dan Campbell loose at the end of the year, I promise you he will have a job the next day, just like Kellen Moore did.
Yeah, but I don't think it would be a head coaching gig.
I think it would.
Coordinator.
I feel like it'd be head coaching, honestly. Hey, we have a lot of time to agree and disagree on this as we go forward through the off season and into the regular season. I do want to have this debate because I feel like this is a fun one to have because this could go either way, but
personally, I think that Dan Campbell could probably have a job if he was to be cut. I just don't really. I can see probably Detroit being a playoff team, but with a lot of pretty decent, good teams in the NFC now, I just don't know if I could see Detroit edging a spot unless it's like a 7th seed. To be honest with you, heading into next season. But the thing is that, like I said, again, this is a make or break a year for Dan Campbell. You don't make playoffs, you're cut as a coach. I'm going to stick by that, and I'm not going to change my mind on it.
I don't see it, but again, like I said, we have so much time before the season starts. Still a lot of acquisitions to be made and cuts, of course.
Right.
But with that, let's go to Tinkle on this, and boy, Charles Barkley covering March Madness is just next level shit.
Oh, I agree.
So Charles Barkley, Clark Kellogg, and the Jet were all talking. And Charles Barkley mentioned, to clean my jersey, I would take it in the shower with me and wash up to be sure that the jersey is clean.
And apparently the reason why he did is because, like, you have a game, and the next morning you would have to get back on the flight for another game. When are you going to have the time to wash your jersey? And I would shower with it on just to be able to get it washed. And then the guys are like, well, there's other ways to wash it without having to go into the shower. Which, I hate to say it, they're very truthful on that one. There's other ways to wash it. Like, you could literally go somewhere to like a laundromat or something like that, get it washed real quick. Like before the game.
This must have been way before the equipment managers. Because you'd have to believe now the equipment managers worry about it.
Right.
But, oh my God, Charles. You're ruining school equipment.
Have you seen the confidence in this young man change?
Oh, man. But, yeah, for that, Tinkle on this, Charles, just... What were you thinking? Let me steal your own words. You were thinking terrible decisions.
Yeah, he was definitely thinking of a terrible decision on that one. Like, I don't understand what would even go through your mind. I get it. It's, this was like back in the 80s when he was playing.
Mm-hmm.
But or maybe more 80s, 90s. I would think more 90s. I think he was during Michael Jordan's era. But still, really, this is this is the best decision that you could have came up with. Is go flu commercial. I didn't have any other chance to wash my jersey heading into the game, so I'm gonna shower with it on. Does that mean you're using soap on the jersey to be able to wash out the stains?
Irish Spring, baby.
Yeah, right.
Old Spice. No,
it was probably Irish Spring. I think Irish Spring was big back in the day than Old Spice. But hey, oh well. Either
anything that was there, probably that stuff. But
also the same guy that makes terrible decisions for his guarantees too. So I guess it doesn't shock me that he would shower with his jersey on.
Yeah, I would have thought it was for superstition purposes, but hey, I guess you don't have to have any superstitions when you haven't won any rings.
Oof.
All right. There was another big thing that happened in March Madness. Speaking on jerseys, of course, one of Baylor guard. Baylor guard Dale Bonner, he checks into the game right before the whistle was blown to start the play, or to restart play. The referee stops and notices that Bonner's jersey is inside out. I get it. You're wearing warm-up shirts, You're wearing the warm-up shirts, you're wearing the sideline T-shirts, and you tend to lose track, especially in the big moments. But still, Bonner, Tinkle on this as well. But with that, that's it for this week. Jason, what's coming up? If you guys are having no final bell this week.
Yeah, actually, we did have it this week. We're talking about AEW Revolution. Of course, next episode we're going to be talking about ROH. Yeah, ROH has made a return. It's back, new era. So we're going to add that onto the show. Probably take out Impact Wrestling, to be honest with you. So going forward, it'll be at least ROH and AEW just on. No final bell, but yes, we talk about everything Revolution. We had some few surprises. We had some titles change hands. We've had some titles staying in the same hands of some wrestlers, but we talk all about it. So of course, keep up with us on No Final Bell. Hopefully, I can get the episode out on Wednesday at 5 for next week. We'll see.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, on the Out of Turn 4 side, Hendrick Motorsports got smacked with the harshest NASCAR penalty that has ever been handed out to a team. Hendrick got hit with 100-point penalties to 3 cars for hood loafers, I believe they are called. All 4 crew chiefs suspended, a $400,000 fine to the organization, and crew chiefs suspended for 4 races. I believe I said that first, but I'm tired. It doesn't stop there. It also happened to the Colleague Racing entry for Justin Halen. The only driver who didn't get hit as hard with the driver points penalty is Chase Elliott, because Chase Elliott's still out with the broken leg. But man, we got to talk about that. A new entry into the Indy 500 as well, and it's a fan favorite that'll be returning for the first time in a few years. then, yeah, we'll have other racing news as well. And, man, we're just going to have fun, basically. So that's all coming your way.
Nobody helping out. Drives in.
On, that'll be coming your way on Out of Turn 4 this Saturday, or this Tuesday, of course, 5 p.m. Eastern, YouTube and Facebook. We'll see you then, and we'll see you back here next Sunday with another episode of Sunday Morning Tinkle. Until then, goodbye, everyone.